All right, guys. Today we're going to use a whole different set of gear. The Weck is something I used recently. It does have the Kismet blade in it. The Weck Sexta blade is the vintage single edge razor here. It's not a straight razor technically because it is a replaceable blade razor. I was given that by a very generous Greg. And this is Declaration Grooming, a scent that I have not tried, Sunrise on Lasalle. And it looks like Chatillon Luxe is the developer here in conjunction with Declaration Grooming. The base of the soap here is Milksteak, is what he calls that. And it's a nice base, and it lathers easily for a lot of people. The kind of slickness that it delivers me is not quite as it's a more fuzzy kind of oily slickness that is I think he gets that because he's looking at it from a skincare a slight priority towards skincare. But it's a very nice, I mean, it's a very slick type of soap. It's just not quite, we're splitting hairs here, and we can do that because we have so many soaps available to us these days, right? I haven't tried at all Sunrise on LaSalle. And so since it says Chatillon Luxe up here as well, what that almost certainly means is that Sean at Chatillon Luxe is the developer of the scent. And then Declaration Grooming, Scott over there, is the developer of the soap base. I definitely get kind of a green, lemongrass type, sinewy, grassy kind of greenery to it. And I don't really get a lot of florals or anything like that. So I'm looking forward to trying it out. I don't know anything about the history, what he was trying to achieve with the scent. I don't know where it comes from or any of that. The ideas behind what Sean was doing there. But let's just use it and see. And so, synthetic. This is the Plasson type, and I believe, and this is a handle from Whipped Dog, and so I'm assuming that this is maybe the Plasson type that he would offer as well. And if you want to talk about very basic, super sturdy handles for brushes to put brush knots in, Whipped Dog has been a great supplier over the years of a few different designs. This is kind of the smaller, minimal one. He has different sizes. He can custom drill. Larry over there can custom drill the hole deeper than the stock 10 millimeter if you want. And it's not a very big handle, but it's very serviceable, very sturdy, and inexpensive. Last time I bought one, these were like $10 or something like that. Now, it's been a while, and all the Whipped Dog stuff I've worked with was pre-COVID, and so I assume he's still in business, but I don't know. As with all synthetics, the fibers here don't absorb water, and so we don't have to soak it before the shave. My face is kind of pre-wet. I did a little pre-wash, and so I'm going to just kind of run the brush, the knot here under the water, and we're going to do our usual slurry lather attempt with this. All right, it is just chock full of water here, as you can see. How much water does that brush hold? Look how hollow it gets, right? Just do one little shake like that, and let's try out. Let's try 20 swirls because the synthetics usually are really good at picking up soap. So let's see if 20, and I say 20 because this soap hadn't been used in a while, except for the water I just dripped in it that you can see right there. It's a pretty dry puck here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Now look, I'm getting just barely any response, and now that may still be plenty. This is something that we have seen so many times on my channel, where you don't see too much in the brush, but it's plenty enough for 5 passes of lather. But just to be on the safe side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 40 passes or 40 swirls, because with the slurry lather method we can actually overload kind of safely, because if we make our passes quick, we never get to the point where we will over saturate with the soap, because we're using it in that slurry mode so much. And I'm illustrating one of the things in this very movement. The tips here of the brush just kind of stayed in the middle of the soap as I was moving it around. And that's just how the synthetics work. This is one of those knots that I tolerate. I expected not to like it, but then I used it and I thought, you know what, this doesn't suck as bad as some of the others. And this Plisson, this very Plisson type, in other bigger brushes, is one that I've definitely not liked at all. And I'll show you why probably in a minute. And so we'll just go right to my face. We'll see how it dumps the water. You know, it may not be good with this slurry lather method I've been working on lately. I'm getting some, water drippage, but that's kind of normal. Also, I'm not going to gripe too much about it here on the first pass, because as you see on my beard, I have a lot of growth on me today. This is not a one-day growth shave. So I'm also asking quite a bit from the Weck from today's shave as well. And this will be my second Weck shave. And so this may be a fool's errand here, but let's give it a shot and see what happens. I'm no expert. This is not a lesson on how to shave with a single blade razor. There are other guys who are better at it than me, but maybe you can learn something from my mistakes, that kind of a thing. I am a good latherer, though. And so let's just go ahead and go here. Like my glasses. Look, there we go. I'm kind of looking right over my. Now, my friend Greg said he liked to use the Weck at such a tiny angle where it's almost flush with your face. It is not moving through the hair seamlessly like a good firm double-edged blade would, one that's supported by a really close gripping head. You can definitely hear. And the wounds that I suffered, boy, you can hear that. The cuts that I gave myself the last time I used this razor. Have had time to heal. It's definitely tugging. It's not super comfortable, but this is a lot of hair, a lot of stubble we're trying to cut off here. And again, you can see it's very patchy. I'm leaving it very patchy on purpose because I'll leave that for another pass to take care of. Switch back over to my right hand and in a very real sense, I'm kind of doing this blind because of my glasses. And that's very tuggy right there. You know what? I'm going to follow my own advice that I give to people who are trying straights out for the first time. And I am going to not do my neck for this first pass here because, you know, with all that growth and the softness therein, I just think that's going to be a disaster. So I'm going to pause you and pick out one of my, you know what? I've got a Fatip right here, Open Comb. To me, it's a pretty mild razor. I wouldn't even say it's middle of the road. For me, it's just very workable. You do have to check the blade alignment after you install the blade, but I so many times find that if you just kind of drop it in flat, evenly and all that, that it just will line itself up properly most times, and that's all the adjustment it took right there. All right. And there we go. Now there's some comfort in taking down a bunch of stubble. The Weck just is going to be too much for all this stubble. It was just not going to... let's just put it this way. I don't have the skill to manage that in any kind of time efficient way. There we go. Okay. I need to do some rinse. I got so much floating stubble. Let's do the second pass with the Fatip as well. I'm just gonna, we haven't added really any water to it. Let's just see what the brush is able to hold. Still doing pretty good. And there we go. It's definitely maturing, not quite the slurry anymore. It's an early lather. The fact that I had so much stubble on may have kind of circumvented the normal slurry pattern because I had to work it more than you do normally with the first pass on a slurry. But that's okay. We're learning how the slurry method works with in different situations. And so in a way, all data is good, right? So I am going to use the Fatip here. We put a Gillette Platinum in it. That I had been using recently, and it's doing great. I think maybe it has 8 or 9 uses on it, something like that by now. And that took care of all those patches left over by the Weck. A little splash of water. All right. Now, you know, the Slurry Lather method does not mean you can't, that you can't add more water. Definitely, here on the third pass, this brush probably doesn't hold as much water as, definitely as the boar brush that I used recently, the big one, this big Zenith that I used for the whole month of August, does not hold as much as that. But there we go. Now, this is definitely not a slurry lather. Some would consider this a mature lather, but it's actually kind of dry. So we're going to just sprinkle some water here on the brush just to kind of bring up the slickness here. And it's not good enough, in my opinion, to just do this a few times and spread that water around. I've seen some YouTubers do that where they paste it, they put it really thick, pasty layer down, and then they start bringing in some water on their brush, and then they make kind of the top layer look nice and slick and shiny. But what's next to your skin is the most important. That's what gives you the slickness that you want. At least it seems that way to me in my educated guess, and also in the way my experience seems to pan out as well. All right, cross grain again. Well, that first pass with the Weck didn't create any problems, didn't create any tenderness. It almost felt like it would in a couple of places, but I'm glad I changed tactics. That was asking too much of it in my unskilled hands. Some of the, shavette practitioners or people who use the Weck type razor a lot, or even just a person who uses a straight a lot, may have been able to do that without any problems, but that's not me yet. Got to know your limitations. And there we go. I have a nice, smooth, comfy shave. No irritation. The smell here pretty much stayed what I was expecting. And yeah, the kind of slickness I'm feeling here is in terms of the hydration with the soap, with the lather, is very nice, very nice. So the Milksteak definitely works with a slurry lather. The method here, and again, the generalities of the slurry method are we are coming at the soap in the loading process with a very wet brush, very wet. We're not loading a super long time. We're just trying to get enough soap on there for 3 or 4 passes. We're not trying to load for a whole minute or something like that. Maybe half a gram of soap might be what we're trying to put on the brush. Maybe a touch more, but it depends on the soap base. But with some bases, probably a little less than half a gram. With sterling and chiseled face, I think 0.4 grams is what I have easily had that gave me plenty. 6 passes of lather, my kind of really wet lather. And so it held its own. It didn't dry out. I did have to add a little water toward the end, but it didn't really dry out too much. And of course, remember, we were asking a lot of it that first pass. And so we did move along in a little different way with this pattern. Like I showed you guys this graphic before, this high definition graphic. As we're coming together in the shave, we've got the water as an independent entity. And as we move and work it, then of course we lose water as an independent part of the shave. And then here it's now all the water is mixed up in the lather. And here's the soap. And as an independent entity in the shave, it gets less and less toward the functioning, the joining of those two items in completely as whatever lather it will become. We don't know if it's going to be a pasty lather or a really wet lather, but in many cases with the slurry lather method, we've actually done our 3 passes, that's what these lines are for, before it actually comes together as a mature lather. And so that's why I told you earlier that it was flexible. Even if you overloaded the soap, if your passes happen before the joining of the water and the lather, and if you've overloaded, then it'll be too rich, it'll be too thick, too dry. But it's possible that we may have completed all 3 passes before that point. And so that's why I said it was forgiving. Well, what we probably had happen today was pass number 1 stretched a little bit longer. Instead of just happening right here, it happened a little further as well. And so then pass number 2 was on down the line. And then pass number 3 was farther into the more mature lather, category or time frame there. Put that in my highly technical filing system. All right. So Weck, that was fun to try with. And the scent here on the Sunrise on Lasalle from Declaration Grooming and Chatillon Luxe was it is that lemongrassy scent is something I've smelled before. Furin, visually pronounced visually Varen, Varen from Sterling. Maybe that's something kind of similar. So what else from kind of a lemongrassy? Maybe it may not be Varen that is what this is for me, but I've definitely smelled this something like a vetiver scent maybe. Anyway, a nice scent, not too complex, and I could use this for a good while, and maybe I would note and pick up more scent notes with it because Sean Maher of Chatillon Luxe is an amazing scent developer. I don't like all the things that he does. He does get into kind of the flowery, feminine kind of thing sometimes that I don't like as much. But he definitely has plenty that I like quite a bit. Hindsight is a declaration. Well, that might be Declaration Grooming and not Chatillon Luxe. Chatillon Luxe is the developer of like these two balms right here. Gracio League Square, wonderful scent. Maybe out of production, but this is an old balm. And then Bon Vivant, I believe, is this one. And that's a wonderful scent. Neither one of these feminine or flowery or anything like that. And he's definitely got more. Oh yeah. Just today, as a matter of fact, I put on from Chatillon Luxe. I believe he did the scent Lamplight Penance. Lamp oil is a big part of that one. A wonderful story behind that scent and the other pieces to that I just really, really enjoy. That was a fun one to wear a little while today. And that's a rare one because of course, it was kind of nichey and it didn't take off in a big way. But I'm glad I got some. Okay, so what are we going to put on post-shave today? You know what? I've got this little sample from Barrister and Mann that I've had around for a while. Reserve Spice. And there's just no reason to waste that. I don't think I have the spice as a full container. And it's what will, his approximation to the original Shulton Old Spice scent. And that's indeed what most of the Reserve line was when Will created it some years ago. He was taking old scents that had been discontinued and kind of reviving them, paying homage and bringing them back. And the Reserve soap base is a really good one if you have hard water. But it was also one that I liked at first, but I think my lathering skills just weren't quite up to par yet. And a lot of people found it difficult to lather that one in a way like I like to have it, where you push water into it and then you get it to that slickness level that you want of just buttery. I mean, just not buttery because that's almost like a fatty, slow kind of oily slickness, but quick movements and ultra protection, but still having a light creaminess to it. And the Reserve base, soap base, just was difficult to do that with. It was difficult for a lot of people. So there we go. Spice. I might as well just use up the whole thing, right? Because this will just evaporate. So I might as well just indulge, drown, douse myself in this good scent. And also it has very good skin food. Will's splash here. Barrister and Mann did this one. All right, and if you like Old Spice, you should definitely give this one. See if you can find an old set. I think I see it come up on the Shave Bazaar on Reddit quite a bit. I think I even saw a set of it come up there within the last week or two. So sometimes you'll find it, even though it's out of stock. I may not like the feel of most synthetics, including this type of knot with this Plisson type bristles. I think maybe the reason this one's okay for me is because it's so small. I have tried the 26 millimeter version of this, and it shoves my skin around, and I don't enjoy it at all. And but this guy, as you may have been able to see, I did have to force it. With badgers and boars, I don't have to force it as much unless they're high density. I don't have to kind of press in so hard to make it bend to my will kind of thing. And then also they lofted this one nice and high, whoever put this one together. And so that made the bristles move out of the way and not shove my skin around as much. And maybe that's the secret to why I like this little guy when I don't like so many of his cousins. But we can all agree that the maintenance aspect on these synthetics is just where they excel. You don't have to soak them beforehand. It takes just a minute to rinse them out really well. The fibers are not going to break if you accidentally leave a little bit of soap in there, like the natural hairbrushes can over time. Well, there we go. Do a little cleaning up now. So with that nice easy shave, even under some pretty big conditions in terms of my beard that was needing to be shaved off, we can say that it looks like the synthetics, as well as the Declaration Grooming Milksteak soap base, work great, as in just fine with the Slurry Lather method. And that's good, because Declaration Grooming is a very popular artisan soap base, and for good reason, because Scott is just top notch. If you work with him to make a brush for you, then he is just, his dedication to making you happy as the customer is just second to none. And then his scents are creative and original almost all the time, and they are just a wonderful experience. And so if you see one of his scents that sounds like you might like that scent profile from how you read, obviously you can shop around and look for reviews on how people interpret the scent. But he's one of those, just like Will at Barrister and Mann, Ben at Mammoth Soaps, House of Mammoth. Those guys where if I read, I don't really do it anymore because I have a good soap collection, but if I read and it sounds good from just the reading, then I can do a blind buy on those guys because of how good they are and how smart they are at putting together scents. And those three makers in particular have a nice scent profile in terms of strength that I enjoy. I rarely ever find a Declaration Grooming tub that leaves me wanting for scent. It's not too strong, but it's just right to be around me during this shaving event. Same for Barrister and Mann and Ben at Mammoth. Now, Noble Otter and Summer Break, those guys can sometimes have a scent that's very low in strength. And now that may be something that's a negative for me, but for you guys out there who might like more unscented soaps, maybe because you have a spouse that's very sensitive to those kind of things, whether your own nose, your own body doesn't like to have strong scent oils, maybe you break out with scent oils. Well, if the scent strength on a soap is low, the less likely you are going to break out. So that's a strength and a plus for you guys. All right, I think that is it. We've put on the splash. We have, let's give the razor a little bit of a loosen and then some water through it. There we go. I don't know if I'm going to travel with the Weck here in the future days or not, but there we go. I don't really feel like I need any extra protection on my face in terms of a post-shave product like a balm or something. I think the food that was on the reserve splash there is going to be plenty to work with my face after the shave, because I really didn't stir up very much irritation. There may be a couple of spots where I think it was a spot over here where I did really actually cut close to the skin with the Weck, but I've got no irritation or tenderness as of now. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching Adventures with the Weck, trying to cut through a forest. trying out the synthetic, this particular one, with the Slurry Lather method, and trying out Declaration Grooming with the Slurry Lather method. I do have other synthetics to try, but many of the knots are just so similar that I kind of feel good about saying that this method works well with most synthetics. Now, obviously, if you got a big knot or something like that, it could be different, but I got a feeling it'll be just fine. So there we go. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.